Another shocking twist in the story that's already been full of shocking revelations. The Mel Gibson saga. Were those the recordings of the profanity-filled arguments between Gibson and his ex-girlfriend? Were they tampered with? We're going to talk to an expert, but first, here's Andrea Canning.
A panting Mel Gibson can allegedly be heard threatening ex-girlfriend Oksana Grigorieva once again in the latest explosive tirade released by Radar Online.
I'll burn the house down. You're a liar, and you're dishonest, and you're up. So you stay the away from me. Take care of your son, and I better have my daughter.
The first recording was released on Sunday. The site has since posted a new excerpt every day.
Oksana feels that her life was in jeopardy. She feels that her only recourse was to record these rantings. The rantings of Mel Gibson suggest that he in fact tried to, or threatened to kill her twice.
Grigorieva denies she released the tapes. Now some are questioning their integrity. Forensic audio and video experts who worked on the Natalie Holloway and JonBenet Ramsey cases examined the recordings for HollywoodLife.com and say they've been tampered with. Experts believe a professional microphone was used to record the conversations. They were professionally made for distribution and have been edited to possibly remove words or piece together phrases. Still, no one has disputed the raging voice on the tape is Mel Gibson's.
You wanted the number of my therapist? Don't you ever speak to him. Find your own therapist. Because you got problems more than me.
Problems that either have yet to explain. For Good Morning America, Andrea Canning, ABC News, New York.
Joining us now, Bonnie Fuller, the editor-in-chief and president of HollywoodLife.com, the site that analyzed the recordings, and one of the forensic audio experts that they talked to, Arlo West. He's joining us live this morning from Portland, Maine. We appreciate you both being here. Bonnie, let me start with you first. Since we've been reporting about these tapes, tremendous response from our viewers, some outraged by what they're hearing, but just as many were saying, hey, wait a minute here. The authenticity. Has anybody checked to see if this is the real deal?
Well, for one of the things that you have to know is that nobody at this point can authenticate that it is Mel's voice, not to 100%. However, as you pointed out, he's not disputing them. Now, we had the same question, and that's why we took these audio files to forensic experts, and they told us that yes, that the tapes have been, and it's they use the word tampered with, that there are words that are edited out, that there are spaces, there are gaps. There's one audio file, the first, where it's clear that it was done in the same conversation. However, the others could have been taken. They're parts of conversations. It's not the entire telephone conversation.
Well, you brought in the experts, Arlo being one of them. Again, he joins us from Portland, Maine. And you examined these tapes closely, and what were you able to determine, Arlo?
Well, in the tapes themselves, there are several things that would raise a red flag as an expert. I found gaps, transients, and fades. All three of these things would be considered in authenticating the audio itself.
Well, let's listen to one of the clips and then get your expert opinion. Here it is.
Sure, sure.
You are hitting a woman with a child in her hands. What kind of man is that? Hitting a woman when she's holding a child in her hand, breaking her teeth twice in the face. What kind of man is that?
Oh, you're all angry now.
You're gonna get to, you know what? You're gonna answer. One day, boy, you're gonna answer.
I gotta say, Arlo, one thing that jumped out with so many of our viewers, and they just peppered our message board, our shout-out board, the clarity of her voice compared to Mel Gibson's voice. What else did you pick up on?
Well, you know, that's a good point, because I believe these are professionally done. I think she had help. She clearly was speaking into what we would consider a large diaphragm microphone. I brought one with me to show you. So her voice is very well engineered, sounds great. In fact, the audio in these recordings is extraordinary. And Gibson's voice, of course, is coming across the phone line, so it has a lower fidelity, if you want to call it that.
And she had him on speakerphone, didn't she?
So that would have changed. But
yeah,
also,
I mean,
excuse me, Arlo. Also, you have to admit that you are taking these tapes from Radar online. You don't know if they did some editing or if it was someone else that was doing the editing. You don't have a raw version of the recordings, is that correct?
Here's the issue, forensically speaking. To authenticate a recording, it must be the original. Therefore, you know, we can examine the recording and we can see certain criteria in there that might make the authenticity come into question. And we certainly did that when we found the gaps and the transients and the fades. So to answer your question bluntly, you know, it can't be authenticated because it did come from a secondary source like that. You would have to have the original to authenticate this.
There's a court of law and there's
That's
a court of public opinion, Bonnie, as you know.
Yes. Well, I think that the fact that they've been tampered is going to affect the whole case in both of those courts. We've heard that in a court of law that if the tapes are, if it's proven that they've been tampered with, then they would be inadmissible. In the court of public opinion, it does, as Arla points out, it raises red flags for people too. And I think that, you know, she's very sympathetic. She's a battered woman. I think we have to understand that she was terrorized, her teeth apparently knocked out. She's going to present evidence to that. But for people who want to be sympathetic to him, they're going to find a reason now to be sympathetic. And
those who felt that she had a motive in doing this, now they feel that they have
some evidence.
Some evidence of that. But as we have not heard from Mel Gibson, and many people say he shouldn't say anything, but you would think that if indeed was not his voice at all, that somebody from his camp would put their hand up and say,
one important thing that I should mention, sorry to interrupt, is that the voices are on separate tracks, which is very interesting. So when this was professionally done, they were able to mix the voices. In other words, I heard one segment where there was a 60-cycle hum when Gibson was speaking. That hum faded down, just like someone was pulling a fader down on a volume control, and then her voice came in perfectly crystal clear. So I don't believe that they were edited by Radar Online.
And Radar, in fact, says in their post that they did not edit them.
I have no proof of that.
That's right.
As an expert, I can't state that, you know, as fact.
Because you don't have the actual tapes yourself. But Arla West, thank you very much for your expertise.
You're welcome.
We duly appreciate it. And Bonnie, thank you.
Thank you
for bringing this to us. We certainly do appreciate it.